In a result-oriented world where we find ourselves, we human beings often tend to overlook what happens behind the scenes. We tend to only care about outcomes, what is immediately visible to us. However, there are many inspiring stories often overshadowed by silence. In today's episode, you will hear about one such story that brings hope to every aspiring international student, directly from somebody who has lived and experienced it. Welcome, Sarosh.
Oh, thank you, Khaled, for having me.
Right. It's a pleasure to honor my invitation. I'm really happy to have you here
it's
today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Right. Before you tell us your story, every individual has that moment in their life where they have to give up on something that is very dear to their heart in order to pursue new dreams. Tell us, in your case, what did you have to sacrifice in order to take this bold decision to study abroad?
I'm not sure if it was something massive that I had to give up, but it was something very important to me. I used to be a very social person when I was in Pakistan. That's where I come from. My university, it was one of the best universities in the country, and I was, living a very good life there. I had made a lot of friends. I was in extracurricular activities. I was hosting musical events, and I was in the theater. It was a very nice life. And when it was time to, end that journey, I had this decision ahead of me of what I wanted to do moving on in my life. Most of my colleagues or classmates at the time, they were looking into masters in other countries, in the same country that we were in. They were looking for jobs, and I had to kind of ask myself what my future looked like. And personally, I'm a kind of person who doesn't really enjoy doing like a 9 to 5.
Yeah,
it's just the repetitive nature of it. It's not something that excites me. Yeah. But if I was going to stay in Pakistan, that was going to be the case for me. I was not going to be able to be an entrepreneur with just a bachelor's degree. I mean, you could, but it would take a lot of effort and time. And again, those were like the two options. You either do work for someone or you start something of your own. I didn't want to really do either of them. Research is not a really big thing in my country. We're more focused on corporate jobs. And I realized that I wanted to, pursue something in academics. So I had to kind of leave the country.
Right.
And the other thing that I was dealing with at the time was this choice of whether I wanted to go for the master's right away or I could also work on my novel.
Yeah.
I am still trying to be a writer. And I've been working on this story for about, 2026? It's like 8 years now. Not a lot of progress.
Yeah.
But it's not nothing. I have like half a book, which is about 150 pages, the first draft. And I'm slowly working on it alongside my PhD, and I was working on it while I was doing the master's too. So it was this decision for me whether I wanted to just take a year and work on the story, or I could apply for a master's. Yeah. I had this senior of mine. He was a musician.
Yeah.
I talked to him about it. I was like, I have this thing, because he was also doing a bachelor's. He was in my course. He was in computer science, but he's also a musician. He had a band and he was releasing music. So I asked him, like, how do you manage these two very different things at the same time? And as someone who's also struggling with something like that, what do I prioritize? Because I do wish to be a writer, but I realize that if that does not work out, I will be left in this big hole.
Right.
And I will be quite behind everyone else. I was already kind of behind for most of my life, because when I was 15, I went to the US for a year. It wasn't a long time, but there was this psychological thing where I constantly saw people who were my age ahead of me.
Right.
And that kind of does something to you, where you always feel like you have to catch up somehow.
Yeah.
And so giving up even more time to try this thing that no one really does, that was kind of a risk for me. So I asked him about it, and he was like, do both if you can, and if you can't, do the master's, because that's the more concrete thing that will get you something, tangible, something real. The other thing, it's a dream, I get it, but unless you're very passionate about it, if it's something you just want to try, and unless you're not sure about it, I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. So yeah, I kind of did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get into your story.
Okay.
Every international student will agree with me that the difficult part of this journey is deciding where to study and which program to apply to. How did you come out, or how did you find the Erasmus Mundus program? Who or what triggered you to apply?
I know exactly what happened. Like I remember it perfectly. I did not plan on looking for a master's program, or I didn't look into any Erasmus programs. I was attending my courses as usual. I had this vague idea that I want to apply to masters, probably abroad, probably something like Erasmus, because my sister, she had done an Erasmus program for her master's. But I didn't have anything concrete. There was also the Fulbright program in the US. My other sister had done that. So I had literally for like really close hand experience, not first hand, but like not entirely second hand.
You had somebody who could easily assist
and I went through that process with them, because when they were applying, when they were filling out their documents and stuff, I was around them. I was watching what they were doing, so I had a very good idea of what you needed to do. So I had this kind of a notion in my mind, but I didn't really start looking because it was around October before I graduated. I was graduating in June the year after that. So around October, you're still kind of relaxed about these things. I had one of my friends, his name was Hassan. He came into class one day and he asked me if I was applying to EDIS. I had no idea what EDIS was. I was like, okay, I sure, what is it? He was like, it's a master's program, it's Erasmus, it's in Finland, it's 2 years. I went home, looked it up. Yep. And I kind of liked the courses, the curriculums. I wasn't really bothered in any way by the different locations, because I personally don't really have a strong preference towards any country in general. It was just that I wanted to do a master's. I knew it had to be abroad because I wanted to pursue academics further on. So I was like, okay, Finland, that's a country that exists. It wasn't something, I was too excited about or too negative about. It was just something that was the case. I also looked at other programs, because once I started into the Erasmus thing, I realized you could apply for 3 programs. So I found 2 other. One was IFROS. I don't remember what the country was anymore. And the other one was LCT, Language Communication Technologies. It's in Germany. And IFROS was about robotics.
Okay.
So those were the 3 programs I applied to. I filled the application for all 3. I think EDIS had the earliest deadline, so
around March.
No, it was January or
1st?
February. Yeah.
January 2nd.
It was January 2nd or something like that. It was very early. It was one of the earlier ones. So that was the one I filled out the earliest, and that helped me apply for the rest of them because I already had most of the documents ready. IFROS, I submitted it. LCT, I had a problem with because the website had really bad UI.
Okay.
And even though I uploaded all the documents, I could not find the submit button. For the application. But it showed me there was a progress bar showing that I had completed all of the requirements. It said 100%. So I kind of assumed that maybe that was it. That's all I needed to do.
Right.
But then later on, a month or 2 later, I received an email saying that I had never submitted the application, even though all my documents were all there. That kind of annoyed me because if you're a computer science adjacent master's program and you have a really bad website, that is not very good marketing.
A turn off for most students, I would say.
Yeah. So that was annoying, but there was nothing to be done. IFROS, I got rejected because robotics was not really my field anyway, so I didn't have too high hopes.
Yeah.
And then EDIS, which kind of aligned with everything I wanted to do. It was towards data science and AI, and that is kind of what I wanted to pursue anyway. So I kind of got lucky there where that's the only one I got accepted for, and that's the one I wanted most.
Let me ask you, every application is evaluated from many different dimensions. It could be based on your GPA, your motivation letter, or even the recommendation letters that you submit. In your opinion, what do you think was the key to you, being awarded a scholarship?
I mean, I don't really think I need to have an opinion here because the EDIS website lists very clearly what the different breakdowns are for the different requirements. And the grades were like 80 to 85% of the weightage. So for the EDIS program, at least, you needed to have really good grades or they wouldn't even consider you. And being from Pakistan, that was even more of a disadvantage because as our program coordinator told us in our first year, that if there's country-based quotas for the program, right? You can't have more than 3 people from the same country. Our coordinator told us very kindly that if that quota didn't exist, 60% of us would have been from Pakistan.
From Pakistan, yeah.
It's the most competitive country. So being from the most competitive country and having grades be the most deciding factor, you needed to have really good grades in order to even be considered. So I just got, I would say, lucky in that way because I happened to have really good grades anyway. And as for extracurriculars, I as I said, I did have a lot of friends.
And you did mention that in your motivation video as well.
Oh yeah,
I mean, about your extracurricular
activities. I mentioned those a lot, and I think that those did play a part because my friend who told me about EDIS, that same friend also told another one of our mutual friends, Kizzer, about the EDIS program, and Kizzer and I got in, and he didn't.
Oh
no! So the person who introduced me and Kizzer to the EDIS program was the one who didn't get selected, but me and Kizzer, the people he introduced, did. So sometimes helping your friends isn't always the best idea, unless you're the friend being helped.
Destiny, I would say.
Destiny, you need to have that competitive nature.
If you don't have that, then it's probably going to play against you.
Yeah, he was just too nice to us.
But how has your Erasmus Mundus experience been like in the classroom, outside of classroom? How has it been like for you?
I think it was very freeing because the way education is conducted in Finland is very nice.
Yeah.
They allow you to to study in any way you like. For example, in Pakistan, we would have mandatory attendance. And if you were scored below like 75% attendance, you weren't allowed to take exams. Exams were the most thing that like decided your grade. Assignments matter, but not too much. It was kind of very rigid, and if you just didn't follow that structure, you just weren't accepted. You weren't, graded properly. You couldn't succeed, even though if you were like a really smart student. I had some people in my class who did not have very good grades, but who were running their own companies before they graduated. And the reason why they didn't have such good grades were because they couldn't attend all the classes and couldn't take the exams properly because they were running their own companies.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So the university doesn't always, in Pakistan at least, they don't always reward you for going out of your way to do extra things. But in Finland, I would say I didn't attend 90% of my classes in person. Most of them I took either online or I would watch the recorded lectures afterwards and then do the assignments. And that freed up a lot of my time to study on my own. So when I did my master's thesis, I kind of went on my own and invented a new kind of neural network architecture. And I was only able to do that because I had so much time to study these extra concepts that weren't included in my courses, but stuff that I was really interested in, and that played a big role in my master's thesis. Right. So I would say that education-wise, Finland was a breath of fresh air, given where I was coming from. And on top of that, it was the cultural exchange that it provided, because in our program we had people from all over the world that we were introduced to, and we also went to different countries for our second year. We also had winter school in other countries. So that kind of experience where you just explore these different aspects of just the globe, it opens your eyes to a lot of like nuances that people have between different cultures, and it makes you more accepting. It makes you more calm necessarily, because in Pakistan you would always have this sense of competition. You would always be fighting against the next person to either get a higher salary, get a better job, make more money, or have a more stable life, get married, have kids. It was always just a means to an end, just always to the next
hand
goal.
to mouth kind of.
Yeah. And just coming here, meeting all these different, like we had one of our classmates, Mariama.
Yeah.
She was in her 30s, and she didn't have all that. She was still single. She was just figuring out her life, and she was happy. She was doing fine. And
shout out to Mariama.
Shout out to Mariama. Yeah. Amazing person. Yeah. And yeah, it's stuff like that. It just kind of, relaxes you. Like, okay, it's just life. You have to figure yourself out. There's no right or wrong. You just kind of do what you want,
Yeah.
and hope for the best.
It's a free word,
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, your story has inspired somebody watching us right now.
Okay.
But the problem is that they are staring at an empty motivation letter, feeling overwhelmed and confused. What would be your advice to such a person?
Okay, if they're specifically at the motivation letter stage, I would say different things. But let's start with
in general, we can.
Yeah, if we start with in the general thing where they're watching the video and they're like, oh, I don't know if I should apply or not. I will say this. Every time I've done like something amazing in my life, I have never planned it.
Okay. Spontaneously.
Never. Not just spontaneous. It kind of came to me.
Okay.
I went to the US when I was 15 for an exchange year. I spent 10 months in the US. And that I never really planned for. I was just sitting in class one day and one of my counselors just came into class and was like, there's this scholarship and they're going to take you to the US. Does anyone want to apply? And I was like, sure, why not? The same way I said to Hassan when he asked me if I was applying to EDIS, right? So it's not something like the best things in life don't really necessarily come from meticulous planning or like having things perfectly arranged. You just have to like look at the first thing you need to do and work on that. So what I would suggest is if you have even the slightest idea of what you want to do, like you just know I want to like study art, and you're about to like complete your bachelor's or even before that, just kind of feel like if you're watching this and you want to apply for a master's, for example, just kind of Google art masters Europe or wherever you want to go. Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to do it today. You don't have to like finish the application by tomorrow. Just figure out what it is. And my advice would always be, what is the very next thing? Like the immediate next thing that you need to do. It's not like, oh, I need to, fill the application. But that's too vague. You can't tell yourself that. You tell yourself that and then you just keep it aside for a long time, because every time it comes up in your mind, it feels like this massive thing you need to do. Yeah. And you just never get to it. It has a lot of like, it's momentum, right? The bigger the thing is, it's harder to move.
Yeah.
So if you put this massive thing in your mind, it will be very hard to actually get you to do it, because it's hard to, start the thing.
Yeah.
So you just find the smallest next step that you can take. For you, it would be just, opening a different browser and just typing the words art masters, Europe. Do that. Just do that. And then the next thing, and then the next thing. Just worry about only the very next thing, the smallest thing that you can imagine. Just do that.
Yeah. And if I understand correctly what you are saying, one thing that I've learned so far is that do not be afraid to explore and do not think about failure, because no one has ever succeeded without failing.
Yeah.
You applied to 3 different programs.
I applied to 3 different programs. The US thing, I applied 2 different years.
Okay.
My first year, I did not get in. I got rejected. The second year,
there you have it.
Yeah. The first year, it was different steps. So first you send in the application, then there's an English test that they take. Not IELTS, just a general English test that they have designed themselves. And then there's the interview. I gave the test for my first year and I failed it. Second year, and the first year when I failed it, I was very cautious about it. I was like, okay, I need to be very formal. I need to be, expressive. I need to make sure that they know that I have very good English.
Yeah.
But that's not what they cared about. The second year I went in, I didn't really care. I was like, I'm going to fail anyway. So I went in and I wrote about my interests. I was like, I like playing chess and collecting Rubik's Cubes. And then I got selected. They were like, okay, this kid sounds fun. And even in the interview stage, so usually it's like a 10-minute interview. And I went in, there was a room that they kept us in. It was like 30 to 40 people.
Yeah.
And then they would call us by name for the interview. There were 3 different rooms where they were interviewing.
Right.
And in the first room was the head of the program in all of Pakistan, who was overseeing the whole thing across all of Pakistan, and this woman from the US embassy. It was those 2 people. That was like the toughest room to succeed in, because it was the like highest bosses, the final bosses of the program in that one room.
Yeah.
And then I got called into that room. And I remember when I went in, there were like around like 20 to 30 people left in the room. And by the time I came out, there was like 1 person left. So every other person after me had gone into the second and third room.
Right.
And that's because I did not have a 10-minute interview. I had a 50-minute interview.
Okay.
Yes. They asked me a lot of really like serious questions, not serious, but like really inquisitive questions about me and my personality. And I gave the dumbest answers possible.
Well, and not to make you feel flattered, but I feel like you are one person that is, fun to have conversation with.
I am. I've been told
I assume that that is what probably.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a 12-year-old kept like this 40-year-old and then this 30-year-old person engaged, who are supposed to be these like really high achieved individuals, and I kept them engaged for an hour. So
good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let me ask you, how has life been after graduating? Do you feel like the master's program has benefited you in any way?
That's a very easy question for me to answer. I was told by my PhD supervisor that when I applied for the funded position, it reached a stage where there were like 2 applications, and it was me versus someone else. It was like a 50-50, and the evaluators, they favored me only because I had done the EDIS program with Obo Academy.
Okay.
So I know for a fact that I would not have the PhD without my master's.
Okay. So that in itself is a benefit.
It's pretty much enough
from the
that I need.
Program.
But if you need more, then it was through this master's that I met the person who is my supervisor now.
Okay. So yeah. Let me ask you. You've just mentioned that you are pursuing a PhD.
Yes.
Was that a decision that you made long time ago, or it was a natural thing for you? Because many people, after they complete their master's program, the natural thing for them to do is to continue and do a PhD. Was it same in your case, or you had planned to do a PhD? Was it a long time ago?
I'm not exactly sure when the decision kind of solidified, but I know for a fact that when I was in my bachelor's around like the first year, I did decide that I would go into research. I didn't know exactly what that meant because I wasn't too familiar with the concept of a PhD back then. I only knew master's because that's what my sisters had done. But I knew that I wanted to do research in some capacity, maybe for a company or something. So when I graduated, the bachelor's, I applied for the master's because that was the next thing in research. Near the end of the master's, I saw that a lot of my colleagues were applying for jobs. That's what you do. I do not enjoy that. I do not enjoy working 9 to 5 for a company.
Hate that.
I just cannot. The way I put it in words is that it makes me uncomfortable to work so someone else can make money. It doesn't like rationalize in my brain. For me, it feels wrong because I'm working. And someone else is just managing me, just watching me do the work, and then they make more money than me. And that just bothers me. I don't like that. I don't like being watched, first of all. I don't like being managed. And I don't like someone else making more money just for managing me.
Put it differently, you want to be your own boss, kind of.
Yeah. And the other thing, I like with companies, the goal is to make a profit. It's to make money for themselves, for the shareholders. That is not something that drives me. I am not a fan of making money. I would like to have money enough to survive and to be able to do the things that I want. But it's not particularly a goal of mine to just have as much money as possible. So to work for a company with that specific goal, it again doesn't feel natural. It doesn't vibe with me.
Right. Let me ask you this. Very controversial.
Yes.
A lot of people argue that education does not make someone rich. And if that's the case, why would a person like you do their bachelor's, proceed to complete double masters, not one, double, and then decide to pursue a PhD studies? Why do you think that is the case?
Well, being a person like myself, I think I can.
You can answer for yourself.
I can answer for myself. I would say that there's 2 parts to this. The first would be, how do you define rich for yourself? Is being rich having the best health? Because if you ask like an 80-year-old person, they would give all of their money to be 30 again. Is rich knowing all the things that you can? Is it to acquire as much knowledge as possible? Because if you ask some scholars, they would say that that if they could give all of their money away to have all the knowledge in the world, they would happily do that. If you could become, let's say, like ChatGPT or something, some people would enjoy that. And for other people, the obvious answer is to just make as much money as possible. But even then, it's for multiple reasons. It's either to live a life of luxury where you can do these like fantastical things like
Yeah.
go to space or something, or is it so you can have enough so you can save it and keep it for your children or the next generations? You don't want your children to suffer in any way. It's these different ways that people would define richness, right? Some people would say, oh, I want to be loved, so they would try their best to help everyone around them. So
And that's how they feel rich.
yeah, they collect a community around them. They have these traditions that they follow, like Thanksgiving dinners every year or whatnot. For me personally, the way I would see richness is it just having the most experience. Not in terms of knowledge per se, but in just terms of seeing what life has to offer.
Right.
Right. That's why I usually say yes to most things where I'm like, let's just do it, because the way I live, I collect experiences, and you can't always collect experience with money.
Yeah.
I would say, because sometimes you have fun when you have a limitation on your budget, right? When you have a certain amount that you can spend for a trip, and then you find creative ways to do that, like, sleeping in a hostel or a tent, or bunking with people, or like sharing food somewhere, like going to a local, like, food distribution place or something like that. So in that sense, for me, life is about collecting experiences, and that's why I don't think I can do a 9 to 5. That's part of it, where that would take up a lot of my time. And right now with the PhD, I usually work from home. I show up at meetings whenever I need to at the university, but I work from home, and at the same time I'm doing my chores. So they kind of happen together, and then I have a lot of time left later in the day to kind of go out with my friends if I want to.
Yeah.
So for me, it's richness is having freedom, right? Jimmy Carr, he's a comedian.
Yeah.
The way he put it, I think it was him. I'm sorry if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But the way he put it was, if rich is if you have more money than you have right now, it would change nothing about your life. At that point, you're rich.
Very powerful.
Right.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Among all the different countries that you could potentially pursue your PhD in, why did you decide to, do it in Finland? Is there any particular reason why you considered Finland?
So there's a few reasons. The easiest one would be that the person who's my supervisor, he's a really nice person in general.
Easy person to work with.
Easy person to work with. He does.
By the way, I know him. So.
Yes, shout out to Sebastian.
Yeah,
he's very good with supporting you if you have any ideas. He likes to explore things with you. So I really enjoy working with him, and he is only available in Finland. The other thing would be that I enjoy the way Finnish culture prioritizes life over financial or monetary gains. If you ask a Finnish person what the ideal life is, they don't necessarily describe living in a mansion or anything. They just say, I want maybe like a house, my family, summer house.
With a sauna.
Yeah, with a sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna is very important.
Yeah.
But I would like my spouse, maybe my children, a pet maybe, and then I would like to go for walks in the morning and just like live this relaxed, easygoing, slow life, where you can just do whatever you feel like and not have to worry too much about, are my stocks making me, am I losing money because some person somewhere in the US made a statement and the stocks all fell or something like that. Like, they're not too worried about stuff like that. I enjoy that vibe. I kind of relate to that, and for me, being in a place where they value experiences over luxury is not necessarily too important, but it's just a nice to have.
Yeah.
And since I was already living in Finland, it was just easier to look for a PhD here. The other options that I did consider were Germany. I have a lot of friends there, but every time I visit Germany, the bureaucratic infrastructure, it feels slower than that of Finland's. And being from Pakistan, where you have to wait in line for like hours just to get like one document, I really appreciate the convenience that the Finnish system has, where you can just log in online and kind of do all your tax stuff, with your documents, everything you need to do. Most of it can be covered by like an online website,
Right?
and it's not hard to navigate. It's very responsive. If you have any questions, they usually have like a chatting service, or you can call them. They're not always available in English, so you sometimes have to kind of deal with that friction. But it's still better than most other places that I've been. The third option I considered was the UK, where I have a lot of my family.
Yeah.
But the UK gets very expensive. It's very similar to the US in that sense, where it's very capitalistic.
Yeah.
And it can get very expensive to live there. It's it has a lot more things you can do in terms of activities, but at the same time, you always kind of have this stress at the back of your head where things might change very suddenly, because right now there's a lot of anti-immigration sentiment going on in the UK. Finland's more socialistic. It takes care of the people first. I really enjoy that. And for me, that sense of relaxation, that calmness that it provides me, that reassurance that nothing bad will happen to you unless you do something very bad yourself.
Yeah.
I like that, and I value that. And yeah, overall, Finland is
One other question that I'm wondering,
Mm-hmm.
what were your perceptions about pursuing a PhD, and has those perceptions changed since you started your PhD?
I would say a little bit. When I started the PhD, the idea that I had, it would be about the research. I would get to play around with ideas more, read a research paper, implement the thing that they're talking about, see if it works with the thing you're working on, change the idea. Like, it would be a lot of trial and error and iterations. But what I've noticed is that, and it's not entirely one person's or one entity's fault, it's that there is more focus than I realized on publishing. Like, you are always thinking about a deadline, about a paper, about how this fits into a paper, or where do you want to stop your work and then make that into a paper and then continue the rest of it
And
with another
even
paper.
about what reviewer 2 is going to say about your paper.
It's always reviewer 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. Like, publishing is a much bigger part of it than I initially realized. And I am not published a lot. I have 2 papers so far, and they were from the masters. They weren't very big or anything. It was a 1-year course. And I was lucky to have that experience, but it did not prepare me for the PhD publishing cycle. Because
in PhD, it's as kind of, well, if you are the only PhD student working on the topic, then 90% of the work is coming from you.
Yeah, and in my case, that is the case.
In terms of execution, of course, sometimes you also have the support from your advisor. They try to guide you, but you'll be the one to carry out the.
But at the end,
work
it is my work, and I know it best.
Yes.
They try their best, but they have other PhD students
Right.
as well. They have other work. They have coursework to look into, so they can't give their 100% attention to you.
Not possible.
So yeah, it's more like 98%. It's the student, and then when it comes to the writing part, the supervisor and the co-supervisor join in. But in terms of execution, it's always just me.
Right. Somebody right now watching this video is thinking of applying to a PhD program. Do you have any suggestions to share with them?
I would say that if you can join a project, an ongoing project, that would be nice. What I did was I suggested my own topic for the funding, and it got approved. But I'm the only one working on this. So if I don't work, the work doesn't get done. Right? And
if you don't move, everything stays the same.
Yeah, I am the project. I am the whole PhD. If I don't do anything, it just stays as it is. And that can be good because I am my own boss, but it can also be scary because I'm the only expert I have. I know more than I'm sorry, Sebastian, but in general, about this specific topic, I know more than my supervisor does. And that...
Well, by the way, that is the case for most PhD students.
Yeah.
Because you are the one diving deep into the research topic.
Your supervisor has
they
like
may have a general idea of what you should do, but whatever comes out of that research is usually based on what you have explored.
Exactly.
So, not something new. It is the case for most PhD students.
And so but if you have like other people working on the project with you on the same level as you, other PhD students, you can still talk to them about things, and you can use their ideas. It's still collaborative to some degree.
Yeah.
With me, it's either I come up with an idea or we don't get a new innovation or anything. We don't have a new thing to try. It's just that the supervisor says, okay, I guess we've explored everything, so I guess we have to shut that part down. So it's up to me to find out, to exhaust all the possibilities, because if I don't do it, then it won't get done.
It stays as it is.
Yeah. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I like to find the optimal place to put things in. And it's very hard to know where to stop. And that's currently what I'm struggling with a lot, because I keep exploring, I keep refining, I keep getting better results, and I don't realize when it's good enough that even if I work for 2 more months, it would only get like 1% better. So, and that is something that my supervisor also is trying very hard to get me to understand, but it is something that I have having problems with. So if you are looking to apply to a PhD, the 2 things that I would ask you to improve in yourself in the meantime, before you start at least, would be kind of learn how to control yourself better, have more discipline in your life, because if you don't, then it can go crazy. Know when to stop, and just have a lot of courage. You need that, because you need to be brave enough to stand up to a 50-year-old, 60-year-old man and say, no, I don't think that's right.
This is what I think should be done.
Yeah. And you will be wrong like 80% of that time, but you still need to say that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you won't learn. And that's the hardest thing about PhD. It's looking at experts, people who have been in the field for all their life, and pretending you know better than them.
Yeah.
And you have to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
or else things don't change.
Yeah. Like they say, pretend until...
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, Sarosh, for joining me today.
Thank you,
We've exhausted our tokens for today's session. So
that's good.
We will try to refill our tokens and then try to get you back here and hear more from you. If you are inspired by Sarosh's story, consider subscribing this channel and share the video with other people who may benefit from this video. If you have any question that you would want me to ask Sarosh, please do not shy away from commenting. I will try as much as possible to get him back to the studio and ask him all the questions that you have for him. And thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate and see you in the next one.